just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go. Thought that I'd just drop by and let you know that I'm leaving town tomorrow. I'll cause you no more sorrow. I'll just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go. I brought the money like the lawyer said to do. It won't replace all the heartaches I've caused you. It won't take the place of loving you, I know. I'll just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go.
Welcome back to the channel, Grand Colombia. Welcome to Coffee Time Live. Excuse me. I don't have a cough button. I did a radio show for 5 years, believe it or not. And I had a button I could push to cough. Of course, there was no video, so people didn't see it. Okay. So, some of you found out that I had a surprise Coffee Time Live special edition Friday. It was on Visa. I had Mike on as a guest to tell his story about his process to get his retirement visa. And so I thought it might be interesting hearing it directly from someone. I mean, I've told my story, but, you know, hearing it from somebody different, you know, I thought would be pretty good. So what do we got? Rob. Good morning, Rob. Seamless today. Yeah, sometimes. Dennis, good morning. Phil, Mike, it looked cold in that Chinese restaurant. No, temperature's been great. It's been sunny until afternoon or evening, depending on the day, and then, you know, we get our daily rain. It's been cool in the evening. It's been kind of perfect lately. Phil, hello from LA. Christopher, buenos dias from Florida. Yuka, greetings. Speaking of, starting off with a bang again. Thank you, I really appreciate that. Michael, greetings from San Jose. Yes, sorry about that, dude. Good morning, Lauren. How are you? I'm doing well, feeling good. Got a frog in my throat, but it's not from any kind of illness or anything. Just, I don't know. I sleep with a fan, and maybe that contributes. Keith, good morning. Donald the Explorer. I don't, or maybe you're new. I haven't seen you before. Hello. From Minca, Sierra Nevada, Santa Marta. Coleman, hello from West Palm Beach. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I want to, some of you will get this, some of you won't. Doesn't matter. I created a t-shirt. You know, I was just kind of bored and entertaining myself. You may or may not be interested in it. Vamos, Brandon. It's got the American Colombian flag, the Sane in Colombia logo, my private channel. And it comes in black, dark blue, light blue, red, and this is an olive drab, kind of a military color. So if nothing else, some of you will get a little chuckle out of that. George, buenos dias. How you doing, George? Alex Sebastian, hello from Bucaramanga. Awesome place. Awesome place. My third favorite place in Colombia. Which is pretty good because I think I've only got 3 places that I really like in Colombia to live in. Reese, how you doing? Drab, way to sell it. Well, the color, olive drab. I think, I think that's what they call it. It's the color. No, I'm not a good salesman, and I put it together more as a joke. But if you are interested in it, well, I put it at the top of the chat. You can't see it there. Well, I don't know if I can. If you go to the Grand Columbia Live site and click on, there's two merchandise sites under merchandise, and it's the one on the left side. If you click on that and go all the way to the bottom, you'll find it. Dee Dee, good morning. Good morning to you too. Okay, so I keep getting questions, understandably, about particular situations, not retirement visa, but other situations. And I'm always hemming and hawing around it, and I'm very vague about it because I haven't gone through it. And I don't come on here to pretend I'm an expert about things I don't know. What I do know is that there's about 30 different types of visa available in Colombia. If you don't get the retirement, you can get a rentista, which means you have to prove an income of about $2,500 a month. You can get a business investors, which is about $25,000. You can get a personal investment, buy a property, a condo or something, but you got to put $89,000 into it, which that's a lot, at least in Armenia. In Medellin, it's not, but in Armenia, that's a lot. You'd be hard pressed. You get a pretty spectacular place for that if you shop around. So because there's information, all you have to do is type in Colombia visa, and the official sites will pop up, and you can just take a look at those, and they kind of spell it out. But you can also contact my visa people and, send them an email. It's not going to cost you anything. And let's see, I think I put that in here. There we go, visa service. So I'll leave that up for a little bit. You can write that down if you're interested. If you speak Spanish, you can call. You can write in English to the email, and they'll translate it, but they're not really English speakers. Phil, thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So, feel free to contact them, even if you don't plan on going through them. I mean, they're a really good source. What else we got? He mentioned the restaurant. It looked cold. In case you hadn't noticed, that was kind of a spur of the moment, a bit tongue-in-cheek review. When I ate there 2-3 years ago, it kind of sucked. And I remembered it being high-priced. But actually, when I went back and took a look at it, it really isn't high-priced for what you get. Except for one page, the entire menu is for 2 people or more. And if you look at it that way, and you get a ton of food. I mean, I ordered a single portion, and I couldn't eat but half of it. Anonymous, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Anonymous, or Mrs. or Miss Anonymous, or whatever particular pronoun we're using today. What is a pronoun? Anyway, forgotten all my little sentence structure things. Adverb, what the heck is that? 3 places: Armenia, Manizales, Bucaramanga. Was I right? Dead on. In that order. Definitely in that order. So the reason I decided to hit there is Alejandra had run an errand at my request for a client, and I wanted to thank her for it, so I invited her to lunch, and I happened to be right there, and I decided, well, let me go in and see how it's changed. It's not like it was bad food, but I'll explain that in a minute. So I invited her. She actually came in, and I told her to go back and come in again so I could put her on the video. So that entrance was her second one, and she was laughing through the whole thing. She's actually pretty good-natured and has weird humor like I do. I think it's why we get along pretty well. So let's see. I can probably take that off. Yeah. So we sat down to eat. She didn't like anything that was on the menu, so she just ordered the chop suey. Now, the owner of this restaurant is Chinese. He married a Colombian woman. His children of mixed race work in the restaurant, kind of your typical Chinese restaurant. Everybody works there. And so it's called a Chinese restaurant. But it's not. Now, if you go in expecting Chinese restaurant, you're going to be greatly disappointed. And what's your first clue? Well, they sell chop suey. Chop suey isn't Chinese. That's a concoction devised in the United States. But it's just some vegetables and chicken. So she ordered that, and it was really funny at the end because without knowing that we have this thing in the United States about eat Chinese and you're hungry half an hour later, she hit on that at the end. It was cracking me up because she's not even aware of that. It's just that what she ate, she was still hungry. But this is what it is. It's not Chinese. It's Colombian food. It's Colombian fried rice. As a matter of fact, you can get the paisa rice. All these different versions of Colombian rice. It just kills me. I mean, the only thing Chinese is egg roll. I couldn't find anything else. Somebody said, well, what about the wonton soup? Nope, no wonton. It's a Colombian restaurant through and through. They sell spaghetti. I mean, not noodles. They sell pasta, red sauce, spaghetti, because Colombians like that. So, just be aware, if you go in looking for Chinese, you'll be greatly disappointed. If you go in looking for a decent fried rice, Colombian style, pretty good. That's what I had. I couldn't eat it all. It was pretty filling. It was way too much. But Alejandra didn't want it. She didn't want rice. But so it was pretty good. Was it anything special? Absolutely not. It was as mediocre as I remembered it being. But if you go in there with 3 or 4 people and you order the double platter, for example, 4 people can eat off of that. You grab a beer, everybody gets full, and you spend the equivalent of about, with the beer, maybe 6,000-7,000 pesos. So, it's a pretty good way to go. Now, the other thing that I was asked quite a bit about, maybe they use soy sauce. They put a lot of soy sauce in the rice, but it's not really the Chinese soy sauce. It's that Colombian watered soy sauce that's not really soy sauce. It tastes okay, but it's something different. Where was I? Ooh, I get scattered, lose my train of thought. Danny, I saw your message and I replied to you and gave the email, send me the email. You said you haven't been able to get in touch with me. I'm the easiest person in the world to get in touch with. If you go to the grandcolumbia.live site and click contacts, there's a million ways to reach me, including my email. So, email me. My biggest misgiving about Armenia is the lack of Chinese restaurants. Well, you could say that about most of the United States too. Now, I know you happen to live in a place where you can get pretty good Chinese food, and you can in New York City, but most of the United States, it's Americanized Chinese food. You've been to China, I've been to China. It's a whole different ball game. As a matter of fact, it's hard to even pinpoint Chinese food because there's so many regions of the country that have so many different styles. It's I mean, from one place to the next, it could be totally different. But what I would say is you cook and you cook things you like, just make your own. Don't worry about it. Colombia is really not the best place to get Chinese food. I would say maybe Bogota, although I don't remember if I ever went China. I think I did once. But the thing is, if you've got a restaurant, you need to make money. And that means you got to have customers. And the way you're going to have customers primarily is to cater to the taste of the population that you're serving. That's a big reason why the Chinese is Americanized. It's sweeter. It's just a kind of a different food. There's some similarities in some cases, but in most cases it's different. And so there are some similarities in certain dishes, like the rice. So if you're Chinese, you're going to make the rice. You're going to kind of lean towards a Colombian style so that, you're catering to that taste. And I think that's the practical reason behind it. And I think that's why here's a guy who's Chinese, but he's making Colombian rice. Now, Medellin, I think, had a couple. I remember one in particular I went to that was actually quite good. And it was actually I don't want to misspeak, but it was on 23. It was across the street from the university, near the Mercado. And it was a small place, but the food was pretty authentic. It was surprisingly authentic. But that's not the norm. Okay, what else we got? Had great Thai. Now, Thai, I don't know why that's different. I've had a number of good Thai places in Colombia. Any good Middle East food? I don't know how. There's one here that's that I'm aware of that I've eaten a couple times, and it's okay. I mean, it's not bad. It's not great. It is authentic. I'll say that. That is true. I've been to China. It's completely different to what we get in America. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There was a great Middle East restaurant in Medellin, but really expensive. Yeah, I think when you go to a place like Medellin or Bogota, they're world cities, and you're going to get, whatever it is you're looking for. Now, you get to a place like Armenia with not even 300,000 people, and it's going to be kind of hit and miss. I mean, for example, you go to Bogota, you go to a Chinese restaurant, maybe it sucks. Maybe you go to two or three, it sucks. But then you find out about one that's supposed to be good, and you go there and you find out it's absolutely stupendous. You have much more selection because it's a larger city. Here, you might only have a few to choose from. Now, there's a whole bunch of places here that claim its heritage as Chinese. I can't think of the name. There's one here, drawing a blank on the name. I order it actually once in a while. It's pretty good, but it's American Chinese. But it's pretty good if you like American Chinese. It's very much like that. It's pretty decent quality. I'm drawing a blank on the name, but it's got all your favorites, your bourbon chicken and all that kind of stuff. I had Chinese food in Cali. I was surprised at the amount of Chinese businesses there. Palmyra. Yeah, Cali certainly. Palmyra is not real big, but I couldn't find a good Chinese restaurant in El Paso, Texas either. Yeah, well, that's actually it's a pretty good point. And again, it depends on your taste. The thing is, if you travel a lot, I've traveled a lot. I've been to Korea and Thailand and Vietnam and Philippines and China and Taiwan and lived in Japan for 3 years. And so your palate changes when you do things like that. And so you for the rest of your life, it's a blessing and a curse. You know how good something could be, or you know what it is authentically, and that's a blessing. But the downside is you're always remembering that when you have something you might have been perfectly happy with, you might actually feel a little let down because you wish it were like what you had before. I have that all the time, and I don't let it ruin my day, but I'm always aware of it. And so, for the most part, for myself, when it comes to food, I try not to use that benchmark. It's spoiled. Well, it's not really spoiled. It's funny, but I try to look at it as the food unto itself, and I don't just mean here in Colombia. I just mean in general in my life. The food unto itself, is it good? Is the food quality good? Is there good flavor? Is it seasoned? Despite what it's dressed up to be. And if it's good, it's good, and if it's not, it's not. And it doesn't matter what origin it was intended to be. To me, that's really what matters. It's like that Chinese rice restaurant. If I were really craving a rice dish, which I don't eat much rice. I used to like rice. I don't care for it much anymore. But if I'm really craving it, I might go to that restaurant because the selection is broad. Hdchillin, thank you, and I appreciate the update on the YouTuber. Sorry I didn't reply. I had a whole bunch of messages, and I saw this morning, and I didn't reply. But I saw it. His channel was down, and his channel's back up again. Life with David, I think it was. Richard, greeting from Byron, Minnesota. Howdy. Okay, so that's the deal on the Chinese restaurant and the review. Owned by a Chinese man, but it's basically Colombian food. And I think it was you that said, well, when I get back to Armenia, I got to try it out. There's some really good restaurants in Armenia, but there's a lot of really crappy ones too. I mean, that's the story of Colombia, Ecuador, South America. One of the nice things about Manizales is I think the quality of restaurants is way beyond its size and beyond its population. And it's also really nice that you have that restaurant zone that pre-COVID had a couple hundred really nice, beautiful restaurants down on that end. It's on the east end of Manizales. I forget the name of the barrio, but it's near the Cable Mall. If you keep going east, when 23 kind of ends and it turns into another road, and then it kind of crescents up around the side of Manizales. There's all kinds of restaurants there overlooking that valley. Is your retirement income taxed in order to obtain a visa? No. So many other good things going for Armenia. Well, I love it here. I have no intention of moving. I plan on dying here. Well, actually, I'm not planning on dying, but you know what I'm saying. Food that has to be imported leads to high restaurant prices. Well, that would be true, but think about this. I mean, if you're making Chinese food, you're not importing Chinese food. You're just making it the way they make it in China. The food itself already exists here. The ingredients already exist here. And when it comes to things like, you can get the right kind of soy sauce, you can get good fish sauce, fish sauce is a huge thing, and they're available. You just have to know, what it is you're buying, because you'll find what you want, but if you're not sure and you just grab one off the shelf, you may find that that particular brand kind of sucks, but then you'll know not to do it the next time. I leaned to Manizales because of the restaurant. Milan, yes, that's it. Thank you. That's what I was stumbling around. It's the Barrio Milan. There's only a couple things that kept me from staying in Manizales, and that was the weather. It really bothered me that it just rains whenever it feels like. There's no pattern to it. And that was really annoying. It's like I got caught in some torrential downpours, and it was many times I planned to go do something and I would get rained out. And there it tends to, you get a lot of days where it kind of starts raining in the morning and rains for the next 2 days. You don't get that here. Like lately, I mean, it's been, sunny first half of the day, rain afternoon or evening. I think 2 nights ago it started raining about around midnight and ended about 5 o'clock in the morning, and then it was beautiful out when when you went out. I like that, and that's kind of a big thing for me. And the people issue that I've talked about, that they're very nice, but it's very cliquish there, and yeah. Salmon is very expensive in Colombia. I don't find it to be very expensive. Now, where I am, you almost never get fresh salmon. It's all flash frozen. Once in a while, you can get fresh salmon in one of the bigger supermarkets, or fresh fish in general. But I don't really find it expensive. I'm not a big salmon fan. I mean, it's okay. I've got a fillet in my freezer right now, but the question is, am I going to eat it before it expires? I don't know. But trying to remember what I paid for it, but it wasn't very much. It was cheaper than beef. So, I don't know. I would say the only thing I find really expensive is langostino. In other words, the really big shrimp. They're pretty pricey. I would ask the owner if he could make real stuff off the menu. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea, and he probably could. But honestly, if there's something in particular that I crave, I'm capable of cooking it. I can cook Thai, I can cook Chinese. I prefer Italian. I love to cook Italian. I can cook French. My mother was born in France. I grew up eating French food and drinking wine. I can do some basic Colombian stuff, like I can make empanadas, but most of their food is pretty basic. It's not very difficult. So I mean, that's my solution to it. Some of the best food in Armenia is in my own kitchen. Am I biased? Well, of course I am. But I've also been cooking, my entire life. Okay, what else we got? Oh, there's a video. I was trying to get it done, but something came up yesterday, and there's my notes for it. And I think I'm going to put it on my private channel. But I'm going to tell the story about the car. People are always wondering about the car. And I've sunk too much money. I put both stimulus checks into it, and I put a lot into that car. But it's a tale of woe. And I'm going to tell the entire story. I've really hedged my bets on telling the story. because a lot of things were open-ended, and I wasn't sure of some things. But recently, another shoe dropped, and so well, it isn't to an end, and there's two ways I can go with it. I think it's a very interesting story, and I think it's an educational story, and it certainly will be good for people watching it because they'll be able to point and laugh at me. Uh, so, so there's that. So I'll be putting that together pretty soon. Hopefully, hopefully I can get it out by Monday or Tuesday, tomorrow or Tuesday. But my life is pretty busy, and things are always coming up, and one thing to another gets changed or moved around. Okay. Okay. Here's something that I think you're going to find disappointing or interesting. I see your question. I'll get to it here in a minute. Blockchain vaccination tracking solution called VitalPass rolls out in Colombia. I searched and searched and searched, and I haven't been able to find details on it, and I think it's because they don't have details. They're trying it in 3 different locations, 3 different cities, and there's some people are saying, well, it's going to be used just for coming in and out of the country. Other people are saying, well, maybe they're going to use it to go to the stores. But the thing is, that's not really going to be workable because Colombia is made up mostly of small stores, even though, this whole thing has tried to run small businesses out. So I don't have any more details, but I'm always asked, do I think there's going to be a future for these vaccination passports in Colombia? And I'm very skeptical of that because you're seeing Europe kind of explode with the hundreds of thousands of people in the street protesting, and it doesn't end. And I think that'll be a fuse that will light a powder keg here. So I don't know how that's going to work out, but I thought I would just let you in on that. And what else I got here? Oh, I'm actually going to read something to you. I got this courtesy of Robert, and I found it kind of interesting. So bear with me while I try to read this. A handful of hippos brought to Colombia in the 1980s for Escobar's private zoo has grown to a population of 80, prompting biologists to express concern over their environmental impact and threat to human safety. They are dangerous. In January, a study published in Biological Conservation called for the growing herd, now ranging wild, to be culled. In other words, get in and kill them. The regional government has instead tried neutering the enormous beasts, but traditional surgical sterilization is too dangerous and demanding to scale up. Only 11 of the hippos have so far been sterilized this way. How would you like that job? On Friday, however, the regional environmental agency, Cornare, whatever that is, announced its efforts to control the hippo population had led to 24 more hippos being treated with a new method, darts laden with a contraceptive drug, Gonacon. Compared to surgery, Gonacon is a much cheaper option. And if it's a dart, I'm sure it's much safer, according to their statement. However, it's still complex since experts suggest giving 3 doses, based on studies and comparison made in other large animals such as horses. The same drug has been tested on other wild animal populations, including wild horses in the United States, kangaroos in Australia, and wild cattle in Hong Kong. Scientists, now we're at the punchline. Scientists must now track the efficacy of the drug by measuring hormone levels in hippo feces. I mean, that really sounds like a job. So there's that. let's see if we can get to some questions. What time? Oh, we're doing good on the time. Questions. Is it possible to arrive Armenia from abroad without landing in Bogota? Yes. I think I can't breathe in Bogota's height. Yeah, Bogota can be problematic if you're flying in and out. Honestly, I don't think it'll be an issue. Uh, there's worse places. I didn't have any problem years ago or recently. Um, yeah, they have wild cattle in Hong Kong. Apparently, it seems strange, but yeah, you could fly to Armenia. The key about Armenia is there a flight to Armenia? So you have to. It is an international airport. Pareda is also an international airport. You can fly into Pareda. That's within an hour's drive. What's it amount to? 15 miles, but it's about an hour's drive. So you can fly in there, and there's a lot more flights that come into Pareda. But is Pareda international? I don't know. Come to think of it, it seems like everybody comes out of Bogota to go to Pareda, but Armenia is definitely international. You might have to fly to something like Fort Lauderdale and then take a flight to Armenia that way. But I wouldn't panic over going to Bogota. Um, Unless you're, on a lung machine, I don't think you're going to have any real issues. Cooking at home is a lot healthier, considering most restaurants use aluminum cookware and cheap trans oils. Yeah, that's probably true. I like my cooking, and I am a good cook. I was actually trained by a chef. Um, Armenia for you, Javier, in Switzerland. Hello, my friend. Nice food in the Chinese restaurant. Yeah, it was okay. It wasn't Chinese, though. Um, Pareda, too. Pareda's international. Okay, I thought it was, but it seems like the only flights I ever get involved in are from Bogota. They go from fly to Bogota and then come to Pareda. International. I did Miami to Pareda. Okay, sounds good. Um, can fly into Medellin and Copa. Starts in December to Armenia. That's true. There is that. I think they fly also. I think you'll be able to fly to Panama and then to Armenia. Uh, I'm not sure. They haven't. I don't think they've announced those flights. I looked a week or so ago, and outside of that, they're going to be starting. There's no detail. There's another airline that is supposed to be starting up, but who knows? Um, have you gone to the horse ranch with Angela? Those look like beautiful, spirited horses. Those horses look amazing. The plan is to go this Thursday. Um, we planned that since last week, and hopefully it'll work out. I have to do the video. I'm getting my package at no charge, so I can afford that. But you kind of have to drive to it, and that means I have to rent a car, and so I'm trying to figure out how. I invited a couple, guys here locally to go, but nobody can go. I figured, we could split the cost of the rental, but I don't know. We'll see. One way or the other, I'll get there. Sorry to change the topic, but you ever spent time in Loja, Ecuador? Thoughts about living there? No, not really changing the topic. I talk about Ecuador. I've spent quite a bit of time. I've been there a bunch of times. If you don't mind being isolated by language, Loja's a pretty good place. The altitude is very doable. People are much nicer there than Cuenca. There is a small expat community numbering a few hundred. So, there's that. But Loja's a nice, I hesitate calling it a city. It's a city, but it feels more like a town. I'd say it's definitely a viable place. Keep in mind you're still going to be in Ecuador, with the issues that brings you. But I think Loja is actually a really good selection. There's pretty much similar services in Loja as there is in Cuenca. No health issues, so Bogota it is. Thank you. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. Plus, you're going to be in and out of there. I think you'll spend one night there, and then you fly out the next morning. Cope will have flights to Armenia soon. Yep. Is it common for there to be very, very long lines for ATMs inside banking services in Armenia? No. I almost never have lines. I go to the ATM here at Kalima Mall, and I think the longest line I think was not too long ago. think I was the fourth person. I mean, it went really fast. Usually, I can just kind of walk up to it. The key is go in the morning. If you go in the afternoon, yeah, everything kind of gets busier in the afternoon. That's, I don't know. It's just how it is. The During COVID, the issue with the ATMs is they weren't refilling them enough. I, I don't know what the deal was, but they kept, like, if you could get 2 million pesos out, you go up to it. Maybe on that day you could only get 800,000 out because they just didn't have enough cash. And here they don't give you the 2 million up until they run out. They just kind of automatically reduce it to kind of spread what money they have left in it. I think there was a cash problem that happened. Well, it went on for a few weeks, and then it cleared up, and everything's been kind of fine again. I've been following you for 4 years. I'm mostly interested in Ecuador. Plan to visit there with my fiance is from Ecuador. Your opinion? Ecuador phone follow the same footsteps as the U.S. more into socialist country. I think there's a couple typos. I'm a little off, but Ecuador is a great place to visit. I enjoyed living there. I lived there for just a few days over 3 years. I lived in Cuenca 2 years, two different places, and I lived in a small town of about 2,000 people for a year. I really enjoyed that, but the internet sucked and put me in a financial straitjacket. I had a consulting business that I was actually living on and kind of dried up because of that. It was a mess. But there's a lot of things about Ecuador that just never felt right to me. It always bothered me the extent of, I don't know what you call it, bias or prejudice. They're very conscious of class and race, and you get categorized. It's like, okay, I'm a gringo, so I'm actually treated better than most people are treated. Well, that's not a very comfortable thing. Plus, you're singled out, you're identified, you're seen as a gringo. If you're black, you're kind of assumed that you're from the coast and that you're probably a thief. If you're Colombian, if you're a man, they pigeonhole you as a drug dealer, and if you're a female, they assume that you're a prostitute. And I'm not making this up. This is a real thing. The financial stratas, it's so evident. You have people at the lower end that act like subservient, like they're nobles and you should bow to them. And I'm not going to say everything isn't everybody and all the time, but there's so much of that goes on there. It's just so prevalent. And when I come to Colombia on those 8 visits before I moved back over here, it was a breath of fresh air to come to a place where none of that stuff is a thing. None of that is what happens. None of it, people don't assume I'm anything because Colombia is such a melting pot. They come up to me and talk to me as though I'm an Armenian, as in Colombian. And I like that. I'm not singled out and put either up on a pedestal or looked down to. Now, Medellin, if you guys have experienced it, that's a different ballpark. It's a different place. It's become very commercialized. It's been tainted. It's kind of, in some ways, to my opinion, it's kind of ruined. Because you have, any given day, you got tens of thousands of tourists in there throwing money around and buying women, and just in general being a corrupting influence. And it affects Medellin. So if all you ever knew was Medellin, you don't really know Colombia. So that was a big thing for me in Ecuador. And then you have the thing like the healthcare system that's always running bankrupt, and the care is so hit and miss. It's kind of like they're government workers because it's all government controlled, and because they're government workers, it's like they don't care. Yeah, they're just there putting in the time to do the job, and I don't like that kind of environment. I don't want to have to live in a country that is like my worst memories of bad DMVs. And when you go to any government office to do anything, everything is so difficult. They make everything so difficult to deal with, and they don't even go by their own rules. It's the mood of the person at the time. I remember one time I had to go back to this office like 3-4 times when the first time I gave him what he needed. And when I did my visa, that was a similar thing. It ended up costing me thousands of dollars. But when it was all said and done, I arrived in Ecuador with everything that they needed. And all that other stuff was unnecessary. I don't like that not only can happen there, but it's a kind of a routine thing. There's just so many things about Ecuador that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Now, I had really good friends. Like I said, I had a good life there. I enjoyed it, and I actually planned on kind of living in both. But then the altitude thing got to me, but everybody's different. Maybe none of those things are of concern to you, and so there's that. Plus, it's a little backward. But thank you. I appreciate that you've been following me, and I'm not trying to. I'm really not trying to slam Ecuador. I'm just trying to be honest about my views of it. And I'm certainly not trying to discourage anybody from going. I think everybody should go visit, particularly Cuenca. And I've been all over Ecuador, but Cuenca is a very unique place. The horse ranch, open to the public. Well, you can't wait for the video, but yes, it is open to the public. You can do a 3-hour package or a 4-hour package. The 4-hour package is, I think it's 180,000 pesos. You got 4 hours of horseback riding. They provide a pretty good lunch spread. I don't know what. It's a pretty interesting package. I'll go into the detail. I've got a brochure, and I'll put a link so that you see the brochure. I think I put that brochure up on the Adventure in Grand Colombia Facebook page. I put it somewhere. What will you be doing today since the Bills are on a bye week? What will I be doing? Well, I'm going to try to do some work on that car video. That's not live, which means it's going to require editing, which means there's a lot more work to do. So I'll probably be doing that. I've got a friend that's coming by, so be hanging out for a couple hours. But yeah, no bills after that last game. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? What have you found is the least expensive fees for ATM in Armenia? Bank of Colombia. Keith, have you not been watching my channel? The least expensive fees are the ATMs that I use, and there's zero fees, plus you get the entire exchange rate. Bank of Colombia is the absolute worst place. If you pull out $100, you're going to end up with about $70 to $80 in cash in your pocket, because they not only charge the fees, but they also screw you on the exchange rate. So they get it on both ends. I use Davivienda, and there's a particular way to use the ATM so you don't get charged a bad exchange rate. It's counterintuitive. There's a button to push to accept, but you don't accept, you decline it, and then everything's fine. Or Colpatria, either one. You're so right about Medellin. Yeah, well, that's why I say it. Like, things that I know, I have no hesitation in saying. You know, love me or hate me for it. And I think Medellin's an amazing city. I mean, that's another place that, man, if you've never been, you got to go. There's some very awesome things about Medellin. It's just, you know, the pollution and the traffic and the commercialization of it. It's like, it's not a place I want to live. And, you know, people suggest, well, don't live there. Go to Sabaneta or Rio Negro or something like that. Yeah, you're almost still in Medellin, and a lot of the effects spilled out. And those have actually become pretty popular expat locations, and so all of that is like the rents in Sabaneta are really really escalating because so many people have been going there. And the problem is, people that come from the U.S. in particular think that money's no issue, whether it is or isn't, but they act like money's no problem, and they end up way overpaying for apartments. They do crazy things like putting 2 to 6 months deposit down, which is just nuts. You don't have to do that. You know, you could walk away, but you know, you deal with agents because you don't know any better, and the agents, you know, that 6 month deposit you put down, good luck even getting that back, because a lot of agents kind of see that as extra commission and pocket it, and then nowhere to be found when the time comes. You're just kind of setting yourself up. But what I'm saying is, it has a cascade effect on the barrios. When the gringos move in, the prices go up, and that's why, you know, it's. What's your opinion of buying versus renting a place in Armenia? I'll be looking for a place when I visit in January. Well, I think, with few exceptions, it really makes no sense to buy a place that you're not really familiar with. I think it's too easy to rent a place. I'd say come in and rent and spend at least 6 months, maybe a year, really kind of getting to know the area, getting to know the barrios. Now, the guys that come in here and work with me, I take them to the barrios and show them, here's what's good about it, here's what's bad about it. You know, these are the nicer places, the safe places, your near services. You know, so I know the city really well. I've walked almost every inch of it. So there's that. But if you come here, you don't know those things. And then when it comes to, let's say, a particular building, some buildings, you know, you might get up on the 10th floor and think you're home free, but, you know, those big glass windows, they'll catch sound from the road. And if there's a lot of traffic, you find it kind of noisy, difficult to sleep at night, for example. Or that breeze I'm always talking about. Well, if you're on the wrong side of that building, that breeze is getting cut off by the building, and you're not getting that benefit. So there's a lot to learn about, where it is you want to sink your money. Because once you sink it in, you might as well assume you may not be able to sell it again, because you never know how markets are. So that would be my opinion. That's what I would suggest. Buying a place, I've told people not to, don't buy, but that's actually kind of an exaggeration of my real opinion. My real opinion is if you know really well what you're getting into, I have no problem with buying. If I had the money, I would probably buy a place. I don't have the money to buy, but it's just, don't come down, think something looks awesome, buy it. I think you'll probably regret it because too many things can pop up. Scotiabank in Bucaramanga doesn't charge ATM fees in Colombia. Correct. Scotiabank is Colpatria. Same, yeah, and you say there. Exactly. And that's one of the two banks that I use for ATM. That's throughout Colombia. The only exception may be the airport in Bogota. The ATMs in Bogota sometimes have extra charges. Age is a factor when considering buying or renting, like the difference moving there at 50 versus 75. Yeah, I think that's a factor. I think there's a lot of factors. Some would apply to some people and not to others. But I think the biggest thing is you really need to know what it is you're getting into. No mortgages. Yeah, there's credit for foreigners is an almost non-existent thing. That's why I went into shock when I got the credit card sent to me. It wasn't huge, but it's about $1,000 line, which is pretty big for here. I didn't even request it, but if you want to get a car loan or if you want to get, I don't know, you name it, it's almost impossible. There are some circumstances, but a house mortgage, I mean, even Colombia, it's not like in the U.S. where you can come up with 5 or 10% down and buy it. It's much more demanding here. Right, you pay cash. Yeah, that's really the way to do it. And even then, you can't just bank transfer the money. You actually have to go through like a particular kind of bank. It's almost like a brokerage to transfer. Let's say you want $60,000 to buy a condo and the money's sitting in the United States or Switzerland or wherever. So, or Helsinki. You don't just do a bank transfer to buy it. You have to set it up, which means you really need legal advice. You have to set it up to bring that into Colombia through one of these places that specialize in real estate. And that can be 4 to 6 weeks for that process to occur. So, keep that in mind too. Get a Charles Schwab debit card. They refund all. Yeah, no. First of all, I'm not a fan of Charles Schwab, but that's me. However, it's not just the ATM fees, it's the exchange rate. And Charles Schwab will not refund you that exchange rate difference. And the exchange rate can be more than the fees, which is why one time I was kind of desperate and I had to use a Bank of Colombia and I had to get my hands on somewhere close to $100. So I put it in, and what I actually got in money worked out to almost or not quite $80. So that transaction cost me more than 20% in fees and exchange rate. I mean, that's insane, but that's how it is. That's why I say don't use Bank Colombia. You're just pissing money in the wind. But if you use Davivienda or Colpatria, you're home free. You don't have to worry about it. It's true about Charles Schwab. I use Capital One. I've had them. They actually sent me a birthday email celebrating my birthday and the fact that I've been with them for 20 years. I had no idea. But apparently, I've been with Capital One for 20 years. I had no idea. It's not worth buying when it's so easy to rent. Focus on renting and you'll be fine. Well, yeah, it is easy and cheap to rent. There's a lot of issues that you don't have to contend with if you're renting. So it's hard to say that there's much downside. And the nice thing is, let's say you move into a place and you like it, but something opens up and you know, maybe you just want to change the scenery. Maybe you've been living somewhere for a few years and, well, wouldn't it be nice if I lived here in this particular spot? It's no big deal. It's nothing. When your contract is up, you just move to the other place. You buy your place, that's it. You're there. So there's that to consider too. BBVA gives me full exchange rate. Yeah, and there's BBVA banks here. On the other hand, they're not directly connected with the North American, but I mean it's the same bank, but there's certain separations. I won't go into the detail, but I looked into that bank and it wouldn't have suited my purposes, but it still is a Colombian bank. Even if you used aviator or social cope, I'm confused. Your U.S. bank may charge you an ATM fee on their side. Charles Schwab doesn't. No, what I'm saying is Charles Schwab is not the only one. I use Capital One, and they do not charge any fees at all. And if there's any fees anywhere, that they refund it. But exchange rates are not considered fees because you opt in or out of those. So and that could be Charles Schwab, it could be Capital One. If you opt in to that exchange rate, that's just lost money, and you won't get a refund on that. That's what I'm saying. And Charles Schwab works for most people. I had a lot of problems with him, and then eventually I just said to hell with them. I was just frustrated, and the money that I had in the bank, it took me almost 2 months to get my money back from them. It was ridiculous. It's like, I didn't do anything wrong. Why are you holding my money? What the hell? It's like, you've created this obstacle for me, and now you don't even want to give me my money back. And, I deposited it in good faith, assuming they would return it. Well, I eventually got it back, but it was just, it left a pretty sour taste in my mouth. But I know a lot of people who use it, love it, it's fine, but it's more of an investment account, really, and the banking side of it is like a secondary thing. Fee is only $2 mil per transaction. I'm not sure what you mean on that, but the bottom line is, Bank Colombia, it's not 2 mil, so I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Bank of Colombia goes by a percentage, and most of them do. And the point is, if you're pulling $100 out, why do you want to walk away with 80 and give 20 to the bank? I mean, if it doesn't matter to you, then, go for it. But this is just information. It's like, I'm not telling you what to do. You do whatever you want to do. But for me, I will never use Bank of Colombia, for example, unless it's an absolute emergency. I knew that when I did that, but it was an absolute emergency. But sure enough, that's what happened. But it was no surprise to me. I knew that was coming. That, you know, I had to bite that bullet. But I do everything I can to avoid that sort of thing with BBVA. Yeah, okay, but if you use Charles Schwab or Capital One, you don't have to pay that fee, and that's kind of what we're referring to, not what the bank fees are. But as far as banks go, BBVA, I think it may be a couple of the best banks in Colombia are Davivienda and BBVA. You should be clear that you're presenting to Capital One as not being an expert in travel a lot. You should be clear that you're presenting to Capital One as not being I'm not sure what you mean. I'm kind of an expert with Capital One. I've been using it for years. I do travel a lot. I haven't in the last few years. You know, I've been kind of, none of us have. But prior to that, I've traveled a lot. And, you know, I pretty much know how Capital One is. So I can be clear about what I know. You know, it's like, I may not be an expert on some things, but I always say that. But I am an expert on what my personal experience is. I mean, who knows better for what my experience is than myself? And, you know, so I've had a lot of years with them. And the only problems I've ever had with them wasn't because of them. So, you know, it's a pretty good track record. Okay, well, we've gone over an hour, and I think we're kind of expat. The issue with U.S. banks not liking expats. Oh, expat, okay. I should be clear that you're presenting to Capital One, not being an expat and travel a lot. Okay, Capital One doesn't care anymore. Some years ago, you used to have to advise them every month that you're going to be out of the country. They no longer care. It's no longer an issue with them. As a matter of fact, they have a place where you can go, and the link is still there. You can click and advise that you're going to be out of the country. But when you go to that link now, they say, this is no longer necessary. Enjoy your trip, or something to that effect. So no, it's not a matter of they like expats or don't like expats. It's a non-issue. As far as Capital One is concerned, I live in New York. They think I live in Bloomfield, New York, because that's my legal permanent home address, and it will always be my legal permanent home address for a lot of reasons. In my experience, I came to Bucaramanga to stay and live. Down the road, I realized it's not for me, so now I want to move. If I would have bought a house here, I would have been in trouble. Interesting. It's third on my list as far as the city goes. I wouldn't want to live there, but I could see where it would be very attractive to a lot of people. And so, you know, I try to express that. And when I did the 5, 6, 7 videos on Bucaramanga, you know, that's the way I tried to present it. There's a lot of awesome things there. There's a lot to be said for the city, but Armenia is home to me. You know, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. It's not that I'm a huge Colombia fan, because there's a ton of places in Colombia I not only wouldn't live, but I don't even like. And some I like, but I wouldn't live. Like Medellin. Yeah, I like Medellin, but I wouldn't live there. It's a weekend is enough. Give me a 4-day weekend. I'm good for the next 2 years. Cartagena. It's interesting, but it's too damn hot. I won't go into all the reasons. It's not for me. Cali. I really dislike Cali. Doesn't mean there aren't nice places. Doesn't mean it wouldn't be good for you. I don't like it. Popayan. How boring is it where every building in the city is painted white? I mean, that's their thing. Yeah, not my thing. Pasto. You might as well be in Ecuador. It's the same. It's the same as Cuenca. You know, they're eating cuy. It's the same people. Ibague is an interesting place. Wouldn't live there, way too hot. There's just there's just a lot of places that even if I like them, I wouldn't want to live. And honestly, I think the only two places that I would be okay living in Colombia is Manizales and Armenia. Now, Bucaramanga would be one of those places where if I needed to, I could go there and I would be fine, but I don't know if it would ever feel like home. And if I were there for a year, that'd probably be enough for me. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't enjoy the time that I had there. The people, how dirty it is, dominant women. Dominant women is kind of hard to socialize with them. I'll check up. Okay, let me, before I end this, I want to, this has come up a few times. Cultures are a thing. And here in Colombia, when it comes to women, I learned a lot on that dating video thing and speed dated 62 dates I had over a very short period of time. And what I saw, this pattern emerge really quickly, is pretty much everyone, every female over the age of mid to late 30s turn into, they want to be your mother. They not only want to be your mother. I remember I had coffee with this one, very, very nice. I'm not saying that they weren't nice, but it really grated on me. It was, I had my coffee cup. I set my coffee cup down. She picks my coffee cup up, takes a napkin, puts it under the coffee. We're in a restaurant. Puts it under my coffee cup, sets it back down. Now, you might find that cute and endearing, but then she's proceeded to tell me about how, we could go shopping and she could buy me some different shirts. And it's like, I have 30 some black t-shirts because I just want to wear black t-shirts. I don't want to have to choose. I just can pull one out. It's how I choose to be. I'm not looking to impress people. I'm not, and I just found that just overbearing when you say dominant women, but it's more of it's a mothering thing, and they see it from their view. It's an endearing quality. It's showing their appreciation, their love. It's an expression of emotion. For me, it's like no freaking way, And it was interesting because I actually at one point I just canceled dates I had set up with people that were 40s and up, just because I got tired of every single one was like that. And it's like, okay, I'm doing this for a video actually, and it's like I get the message. So that's that. So you're going to find that here too. Now, when you get I should say there was one exception. We remained friends. She was 42, and that was 3 years ago. So she's 45 years old. We're still friends. We see each other every couple weeks. But that was the only exception out of dozens. And I've got another, well, she was actually 32, and she's now 35. And she became a really good friend. And so there are exceptions, but mostly the people that were the most comfortable to deal with, as far as that sort of thing goes, were probably mid to upper 20s, which that was a surprise to me. But that's how it is. And I'm not saying you should go date a 20-year-old. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, understand that that's a cultural way that they are. And that doesn't mean you can't explain it to them and say, I really don't like this, and they'll make some accommodation. Okay, so I'm not saying that. I think that is Latin women in general. Yes, it is. It is. I dated an older woman from Puerto Rico exactly like that. Yeah, it's, Rumi, you're right. Like I say, it's a cultural thing. And it's very strong here in Colombia. Okay, we've gone on and on and on. I see some people are dropping out. Sorry about that. So we're going to end it here. So I want to thank you. Watch for that car video. Some of you will relish the fact that I'm twisting on a string on that one. So enjoy your day.